in today. Today you're joined by me, Daniel, and also you are joined here by Jason D. Is it Malkintosh? Did you say it? You there? You just be here somewhere.
Nope. I'm here now.
Yeah.
You cut out for a second. Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, that's all good. Yeah, you're joined by me and Jason
Yep. Jason Mcintosh.
McIntosh. Awesome. I thought that's how you say it. Um, Awesome. His work's here at J jasondmacintosh.com. I'll have other links down in the description. Yeah. So yeah, just tell me a bit about yourself.
Oh man. Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Thanks for reaching out. It's good
Yeah,
to
that's
connect with
awesome.
another artist,
Yeah.
and another illustrator. So yeah, I'm from New Hampshire, United States. I've been illustrating for as long as I could hold a pencil. Not so good back then, but
Yeah.
have slowly improved. I let's see, I've run a graphic design illustration business for the last 16, 17 years. I do children's books. I do art commissions, everything from logo design to t-shirt design. I've done a little bit of everything. I've
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a dad. Got six kids.
Oh. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so you might hear one of them.
Okay.
Uh,
That's all good.
but
You might hear my daughter in the background,
oh yeah,
as well. But that's all right.
no, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. I think she wants to spend time with me at the moment. Um,
Of
it's all
course.
right. I try my best, and I do spend a lot of time with her doing things, and it's always lots of fun. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. How old is she?
she is 3 now. Um,
Oh, awesome.
yeah.
My youngest just turned two yesterday.
Ah, cool.
So yeah.
Awesome. Have you had a good birthday for that? Um,
Oh yeah.
awesome. Yeah. So I see that you have social media. I've seen you have a website as well, which is
Hmm.
pretty cool. When did
Well,
you
thank you.
when did you start to build that up?
My website, man, it's actually old.
Yeah,
It's got
yeah,
a lot of my old stuff on it. I haven't updated it in a couple of years. I really need to, with the exception of some of my announcements in the shop there. But my Instagram feed is kind of the only thing that sort of automatically populates.
mm,
Um, but uh, but yeah, I actually have two. This is jasondmacintosh.com is my one for my illustration work, and then I've run 5D Creative, which has been my graphic design business. That's how I got started, really.
yeah, yeah,
Was then that's 5dcreative.com, but that's
yeah,
sort of like my branding and corporate identity stuff that I'll do for customers.
mm,
But I'm trying to do a lot. I enjoy illustration so much more.
yeah,
So I'm really been leaning heavily into that, especially when the world kind of blew up the last couple of years. You know, I think all of us illustrators just sat down with like pencils in our hands and just drew a whole lot more.
yeah,
And so that's what I did.
definitely.
And
Well, with all that time, eh? You know.
yeah, right. I know, and that's actually how I was able to launch my book I had been working on for a long time. I finally got to get it all finished and finish a couple other projects. So that was I just sort of jumped on the time since we had it.
Yeah, it's fair enough.
Yeah.
For me, not much changed here. I mean, obviously we have all the lockdowns and everything, but me at the moment I do work as an essential worker, so
Hmm.
regardless I still have to go to work.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but that it's a little less time because you kind of can't do much. Um, when you come
right,
home. So you can't,
right, right.
go out and that kind of thing. So I suppose there's a little bit more time there for me. But yeah, and I see that you have some really cool books, published, and I was wondering, when you first got your work published.
So yeah, so there's a few. I'm trying to think back to it. I've got a few things. Um, my first works that got published actually were through authors. These were a few years ago, who were actually just seeking illustrators. One of them is it's a book about a turtle and some woodland creatures. I think it's The Adventures of Largo.
Yeah.
So I did that. Finished that a few years ago, and that was actually just through Facebook. I had just been posting stuff, and this particular author had written something, and so she actually self-published that book, and then hired me independently as the illustrator. And she was awesome to work with. I mean, just very, very. It wasn't like working with an art director who's got a lot of like hoops to jump through. I was working directly with the the self-published author,
Awesome.
and so yeah, so we did. I would send over sketches and concepts, and we had meetings, and I was able to sort of. And since I do graphic design,
Mm.
I was able to lay out the entire book. I've and took it to press, and I was able to help her get it printed and finished, uh, and since then, we're working actually going to release soon the second in the series. Should be
Oh,
available this fall.
awesome.
Yeah, and that kind of turned into another thing. So
Mm.
so that book was released, and then because this author belonged to a network of other self-published writers, another author in Canada reached out to her, and she said, "Oh, I work with my illustrator." So she did another book. It kind of lands in the education world. It actually came out at a pretty good time because it has to do with differences and prejudice, and what do you see when you take a look at me is the name of that book,
Mm.
and
Okay.
that
Yeah.
one was all about sort of predisposed ideas the kids would have when they maybe go to school and
Mm.
they see somebody who's in a wheelchair or see somebody who's
Yeah.
has a different skin tone or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it was about that, and
Ah.
and then that dovetailed into one that actually was very timely, which was it's called A Hand Washing Story, and it was all about yeah, and that was
Yeah.
released during the height of the pandemic,
Yeah.
and so a lot of schools jumped on that one, and again, that was another self-published author who wrote the story and wanted to create this fun little book about you know washing your hands and teaching little kids how to wash their hands properly and not spread germs, and
Mm.
but they wanted to make the houses look like hands, so I had all this creative freedom. I had to make the houses that they lived in look like hands, and it corresponded with hand motion, so I had to draw a lot of hands, which
Yeah.
every illustrator just hates to do. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
so I had to try to get really good at that quickly. So a lot of the work has been self-publish, which I feel like, man, I think other people might concur. It's like the self-published world has exploded so much, like with the advent of Kickstarter and Indiegogo and Amazon. It's
Yeah.
become so much easier, right, for people to self-publish. I feel like the traditional publishing world is like gotta they might be sweating,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But
It
so that's
is, yeah, easy now.
yeah, it's much easier, you know. Um, and the printing world has grown tremendously. So there's so much you can do. Um, whereas before, you really couldn't. When I started, man, it was like I was back in the day when the internet was still really slow and
Mm.
and the idea of just you had to buy a scanner and you had to draw everything on big paper and then stitch it together in Photoshop, and it was a lot harder. Um, so that's kind of how I got into publishing, and then my own. Um, those were children's books that I'd done. I've done a couple other spot illustrations for other self-published authors, and then my own work, The Scroll Seekers, was actually a novel. It's a 400 page, or right around 400 pages. It's a young adult fantasy fiction,
Yeah.
sort of a modern, but I illustrated the kind of like Brendan Mull's sort of work, where you have, or Django Wexler's work, where you kind of have the fantasy map in the back of the book, and the creatures that are illustrated like a field guide, or like the Spiderwick. They have those illustrations in it. So I
Yeah.
added all of that in there, and I self-published that one. I went through Ingram Spark to do that,
Oh,
uh,
cool.
and kind of did my own sort of pre-sale, pre-launch, and it did better than I thought it would do,
Mm.
but I was still learning.
Yeah.
Oh, there goes my dog barking in the background. Sorry about that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, good.
So man,
Um,
I
yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was wondering, was it kind of like nerving to release your own book like that?
Yes, yes. Yeah, totally. Well, especially right because I released that book initially, and oh man, I'm just looking at my website now. Holy cow, I really got to update it. Does it say? It says just released
Yeah, yeah,
on there. Okay, sorry, that's a little old because I
yeah.
released that pretty much the day the world shut down.
Oh, yeah, no.
So like I had all these plans to I had book uh, like sort of my own sort of book tour, to go to bookstores and do signings and everything like that, and all of that stopped,
Mm,
and got canceled. Literally, I released this book in it was the March, just before the pandemic, and so man, April here everything shut down,
yeah.
and so I just sort of had to push this thing and pedal this thing digitally. But
Mm,
it was really, yeah. I just didn't know how the world would receive it. Um, you just didn't. I didn't know. I mean, I had a lot of. If anybody decides to self-publish anything, make sure you do a lot of uh, peer review from people that are better than you in a lot of things. So I took my manuscript and I sent it to some people whose opinion I trust and who I knew would be very honest with me, brutally honest. That's what I had asked for, and I got that. I ended up having to rewrite entire sections, and there were some plot holes and things like that, and it was painful, but it was important.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
and
It definitely is helpful to have, a second pair of eyes and other people. With I had a book that I written, illustrated on myself, um, in my college, and I kind of got the whole team there that we worked
mhm,
with through the design course, and they were really really helpful. You had English teachers and things like that. You can go to them to review what you've written, and
mm,
then we had my classmates as well going through my writing and helping me out that way. So it's great to work with people and to kind of share it with people and things like that.
yeah, yeah. You really need a community of artists who will be honest with you. The world is full of people that will pat you on the back and then sort of cut you off at the knees behind your back. you know.
Mm,
But you need that honesty ahead of time before you put it out to the world. And I'm so glad I did. The editing process was painful. It was kind of like pulling your own eyeballs out, but because it just hurt, man. But it was. I'm glad I did it. It took a long time, but it was so worth it.
awesome. That sounds pretty cool. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and that sometimes the power of social media and those things. Um, like you get new opportunities off kind of Facebook.
Yeah.
Um, can pop up from anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, even this conversation, right? I mean, we connected, just through art on social media. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a really cool community to be a part of. Um, because we all have a lot of the similar successes, failures, and pains. We can grow together. It's
Yeah.
important.
I think I found you through a Facebook group. Pretty sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think I don't remember. I posted. I think I had posted a question,
Yeah.
and just to get a conversation going about style or something. And
Mm,
um, so I think you were part of the conversation, which was cool.
yeah. Yeah, it's great to have those kind of places to um, share your art and help others as well, because some of them are seeking advice of their work and what they can do better. You know, um, yeah, all those
Yeah,
things. It's great to have all those people out there. Um,
yeah, for sure. And for me, I never went to any sort of, you know, uh, art training school. I never went to an art college, so I've done all of mine through um, just online courses and drawing groups and things like that. And I've always been able to draw, to illustrate. Since I was a kid, I had this sort of. My grandmother was a phenomenal painter. She could, the stuff she could do
yeah.
was awesome. I mean, I'm not even close to her level. She could do it in every medium, from pencil to pen to paint to oils. I mean, she could do it all,
Yeah.
and so realistic, very real. A lot of realism. She could do a lot. She did a lot of Native American folklore art. It was beautiful,
Um,
and so I had that sort of that was always around me. I think it sort of permeated a little bit of my being, and uh, and my parents and my art teachers in at least through grade school and high school were very supportive. But now that I'm a grown up, I see some of the amazing art that's out there, and I just you need to get better. You've got every day. I illustrate every day, but I'm like, man, there's so much more. I am just not arrived.
yeah.
I'm still just a kid. That's how it feels. I got 6 kids, but I'm still a kid.
Yeah.
you know?
I think we all kind of are, especially with the kind of work that we say we do. You know,
Yeah.
um, not exactly like gruesome horror film movie kind of a thing. It's something
Right.
a little bit different.
Yeah.
So we always kind of had that cartoony, um, emotional thing there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
well,
man,
we're always growing. Um, I'm never, I don't ever think I'll be at that state where I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'm the master here.
I've done it. Yeah. Put your feet up. I'm there.
Yeah,
No, man, it's true. It's very true. So I see you like I see your artwork. You got a lot of pugs in your artwork.
mm.
Is it you like you do a lot of animals.
Yep. I,
That's
I,
cool.
before I wanted to be an illustrator, I actually wanted to be a vet.
Oh,
Um,
really? Okay.
but that went out the door when, I had to do science, and I was just not interested in like cutting up animals and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
the other option could have been something like a zookeeper, um, you know, that kind of field. Um,
Right. Right, right.
although most of those are closed now, per se, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
um, so it's unfortunate.
Right.
But yeah, um, and then my love of animals did go into my art really because I enjoy drawing animals. Yeah, pug series. I had fun, and I still have fun drawing pugs as different animals. Um,
Yeah. I see the Rapunzel and that looks fun, man.
yeah, it's a little bit like the whole that famous painting with the dogs playing cards.
Mm.
Well,
Hmm.
yeah, it's kind of like that kind of feeling um, that I have. I love creating creatures and um, drawing animals in fun ways, and also sharing stories as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Your art. What do you what it looks like you do digital art. What do you typically use to create?
Typically Photoshop.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, Creative Cloud Photoshop. Uh, it's the best for me because of the text. I can use text
Right.
in Photoshop pretty easy. It seems most other platforms digitally um, don't have as good text kind of
Hmm.
play around. Like you can't change the typeface, or you
Right.
can't change
Right.
the size of the text, or that kind of thing. So that's why I do Photoshop. It's the easiest way to do it for me to create stuff. But
Right.
I draw traditionally most days. And sometimes, I might do a drawing traditionally and then take photo or scan it in or something,
Hmm.
and draw over top of that. Sometimes I start straight digitally. It all depends.
Yeah.
But I did for years. I was totally against digital art. I was like, traditional art, color pencil's my thing, and just did color pencil drawing for every piece of art I did.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it just kind of got sucked in, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
um,
that's cool. I do the same. I use primarily, well, I bounce between, I use the iPad Pro and the Apple Pencil,
mm,
and I'll use Procreate to, I actually did one book almost to completion with that. It was the hand washing book, actually. I did that book almost completely on the iPad, with the exception of, like you said, the text.
yeah,
That just really, it's abysmal. You can't really do print quality text. So I brought that into actually InDesign,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
and laid out my text there.
yeah,
But yeah, I just like I spent a long time trying to find a. I mean, going back to iPad generation number one, uh, I had I thought the whole thing was because I really wanted something that I could easily do. Um, uh, Sort of mobile illustration because I didn't want to constantly be tethered to my computer. I had a Wacom tablet for a while, or Intuos Graphire. That just sort of you had to stare at your screen and draw with your hand, um, and couldn't quite nail that down. So I thought it was all in the stylus. When iPad first came out, it was all these different stylus that came out,
yeah,
and I felt like the iPad Pro, and I'm still on generation one, and the Apple Pencil nailed it. And for me, it did. It was
yeah,
just the interface was great. So I'll use that for sort of like quick initial sketching, some line work. If I've got to do some concepting for a client, or if I have a meeting, I can just run out. And then the nice part about it is I can just do a quick share to either another screen, or I can just export the whole thing as a Photoshop file, all the layers intact, and then I'll finish my final renders in Photoshop on a Cintiq, um, and that's kind of my process.
awesome.
Yeah,
That sounds pretty cool.
yeah, but it's taking time. These things are, man, they're expensive. you
Mm,
know, for price it adds up. So I'd have to budget into a job, and sort of the job, would I'd lose I'd lose all the profit, but at least I'd gain some equipment.
yeah,
So had to do that a couple of times, um, but in the end, I feel like it was worth it.
yeah. It definitely is. You know, and it doesn't matter what kind of art you do. It's still, it's got to cost you something at least.
Yeah.
Traditional, you've got either the paper or you know, canvases. Digital, you've got, all your computer or tablet
Yeah.
softwares, and then there's software and um, also, you can buy digital brushes and that kind of thing. Um,
Oh
and
man.
it,
Yeah.
and as well as, you can buy the pens, the different
Hmm.
styluses and things like that. So it's not exactly cheap, but yeah.
Yeah. And then then you get the temptation with all of that stuff, right? Because it's marketed incredibly well. Um, and so you buy it all, and then because you haven't put any line mileage in with that particular brush before you want to buy a new one, you haven't really mastered the old one. So you buy the new one, and then you're still not any better. At least that's been my experience. I find myself kind of wanting to go back to traditional a little bit more. Every so often I'll pick up watercolor just because it feels good. Not that
Mm,
I'm great at it, but just because it feels good sometimes to give my eyes a break from a glowing screen,
yeah, yeah.
um, and let my fingers sort of, uh, the Control Z or the Command Z, right, is I found myself even doing that. I'll be drawing traditionally and just looking. I have my left hand, trying to find the Control Z on my paper. you know, like, man,
Yeah.
wait a second, no, that line is permanent.
Mm,
Which I think makes for more deliberate think through and decisions
yeah.
for your art.
Mm,
Um, so it's not like you get a practice swing. Uh, you've got to have already done your practicing.
yeah. Definitely, I think, traditional art does have that to offer. You don't have
Yeah.
your mistakes are there. You can erase them, but there's only so much erasing you can do,
Hmm.
um, and in the end, the mistakes become part of the art piece or the
Yeah.
creation. Um, and yeah, you can kind of lose that, I guess, with digital art where you erase all the mistakes and every mistake's gone. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true, man. And I think no, I think let's talk. Do you mind if we talk about that for a second,
yeah.
or if it's if you want to, shut me up? I find this fascinating because the world, this sort of the digital revolution of art, it became incredibly, there was this push for a while, right, that was very clean and bright and bold, and the lines were super crisp, and the colors were, ridiculous because you couldn't reproduce them any other way. And now you see, I feel like the world has been more of a cry for wanting it to be digital but feel like it's traditional. I don't know if you've noticed a lot of the digital art that's being sold has got, um, you know, uh, canvas underpaintings that are digital and brush strokes and watercolor, sort of vibe to them, but they were created digitally. It
Yeah.
just seems like but the desire for a traditional look and feel is, I feel like it's grown. Um, yeah, I don't know. Is that just my imagination?
No, I think it's there. I think it's good. I was looking into that like years back. I was like, well, I want to um try and create something digital, but it would look traditional,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
back in the day. I don't think I've really researched that much, but I definitely it is something that is kind of really cool to see. Um,
Yeah.
but oh, this wasn't actually created in oil paints, but it looks like it. How did they do
Right.
that? It's really cool to see.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Totally. And it's kind of neat to see, like, I'm looking at it. I do a lot of I buy a lot of children's books. I have a lot of children, so I have a lot of children's books in my house. But if I find an artist that I really like their style, I'm when you open up the copyright page and the information, and they talk about how they actually handmade the paper, that it was, and they painted it with acrylic, and I was like, man, I knew this was a digital artist, but they actually did this traditionally just a couple of years ago. And so you're starting to see in a lot of children's books, especially ones that are winning the Caldecott and things like that, there's a lot of texture. And and traditional art elements sort of in it, like John Klassen's books. He's got a lot of traditional texture, right? Eric Carle, that was they're talking about older work, but uh, a lot of his stuff was created with, painted texture, and the cry for that, I feel like, has come back. Like the I think everything's been so smooth and so polished for so long that the art in children's books, especially, and that's what I'm more familiar with, but and art for younger people tends to want texture and something a little bit more feeling authentic or tangible, I guess.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
interesting.
It's great to see that, and I flicked through children's books as well. Old ones. I've got quite a few, old ones in the collection there,
Hmm.
which is really cool to see. Those, I think they're Penguin books. Um, they had a lot. The
Hmm.
one that comes to mind when looking back at my childhoods was this cat book, and it was these cats with paint, and they would like paint their houses and make a mess. But it was really cool how like it was illustrated and everything. Um,
Yeah,
I have to look it up and look into the illustrations, but yeah, just looking and flicking through all those imagery, it's really cool to see. Um, and it's a big inspiration.
yeah, yeah, for sure. It's like I'll just sometimes I'll just create a whole list of artists. Actually, I pinned it to my wall that I just find, their work is so far above my own, and I keep their work up there. I'm talking like Dan Santat and just some of these uh, at least stateside that I look up to, um, that and then I'll sometimes to inspire myself, if I if I'm feeling brave, I'll actually pin my work on a wall next to theirs to just say, hey, you've got a ways to go,
Yeah,
but let them sort of inspire you, not depress you,
mm,
uh, you know,
definitely.
because it's there's just so much high level art um, everywhere, and you want to be a part of it. You want your work to make a difference and have an impact on someone's life, but um, you've got to get it out there with these other people.
Yeah, definitely. You know, um, I think we should all just kind of focus on our strengths. Um,
Mm,
we have not compare to others and be like, yeah, their work is better than mine. It might be, but
yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah,
you can. It's definitely like a milestone that you can get to that level.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I definitely like to aspire to just to see, what's available. There was a time when I did, especially young in my art career, where I would just sort of hang my head. you know, I'd see like, oh man, I will never, and then I'll never get published. I'll never have my artwork out there, and then eventually, you cross a small milestone, and oh well, it happened. I did this thing, and I'm proud of it. And or someone else was impacted by it. I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is when someone else sees your artwork and feels something. You know, not that they give you a thumbs up or a click of heart or a smiley face, but like they actually reach out to you and say, "Wow, this resonated with me on a level, and here's how."
Yeah.
I think that's what we really are going for.
Yeah. That's an awesome feeling. I've had it at a convention. I had one of my pug paintings out, and some people would come by and be like, "Oh, my auntie or mother has a pug. He would really love this piece," and that kind of
Yeah,
feeling is great to see. And
yeah,
you know,
yeah. And the thing we got to remember too is there's so many there's so many people in the world. Of course, there are people that will fall in love with your work at whatever level, as long as it has that feeling and that passion behind it. And someone somewhere will connect with it at some point. You just gotta, find them and get it in front of them. I think that's been the I think a lot of artists struggle with that because they feel insecure in their work. Now, I know I struggled with that. You don't want anyone to see it, or you're quick to put it down as soon as someone says, "Oh, this is great." So, "Oh, no, no, that's not great. It's it's just practice." That's just my practice sketch.
Yeah.
When really
Mm.
you put in, 12 hours into it, you know. But because I think we're all sort of self-defeating until we're comfortable in our, in our shoes.
Definitely. Awesome. Um, yeah, so there's an event coming up, Lightbox. Are you attending?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Awesome.
No, I don't. I haven't really attended any events. I again, it just I still sort of struggle. I think with I just like to put my head down and work.
Yeah,
Just churn.
that's
I
fair
like to churn the work out. I'm not a big I'm not a big convention guy.
Yeah,
Or show guy. I like to go, or I'd like to see what's there. I'd like to consume, but I feel like I don't know. It's just not quite my scene. Not yet anyway. And again, that could be my own sort of. I'm not afraid of people per se or feedback or critique. I just
yeah.
uh, I feel like, man, I should be working.
Busy,
you
busy.
know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, I have the time at the moment, so that kind of
Mm,
thing. I can just taking a bunch of days off work to go to this Lightbox Expo. It's
yeah.
online. You just but I went to it last year, and it was awesome. Lots of people, lots of artists out there. Just some of them were just chatting and that kind of thing. Others were actually giving talks and showing you how to do things.
Mm,
And it was just a great experience, and also hanging out with other artists that do go in the event through Discord
yeah.
was a great place um, to yeah you can draw with other artists and all that stuff. So
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I've not. I actually haven't really researched it much at all. I'm actually on the site now. Just taking a look at it. So do you just do you attend or do you present or are you sort of just part of the
I'm
the,
just
the
attending.
community? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I'm just attending at the moment. I'd love to do something on there one day. But yeah, I don't think I'm at that level yet. Um, you know.
yeah. It looks pretty amazing, pretty inspiring. Wow.
Mm, yeah.
So there's some great looks like some great stuff there.
And also you were talking about your YouTube, or you did some YouTube thing, I guess,
Yeah.
before.
So all I've really done has just been for me. I just take a few illustrations. I just in Procreate, and I'm just sort of doing quick, short little time lapse drawings of
Yep.
my process, and
Uh,
just sort of dropping in there. It's actually nothing at
yeah,
all really there.
it's fair enough.
It's so new. Like my son, which is kind of my oldest son, he's 16. He's a great musician.
Yep.
So what I do now is he'll write a song. He plays electric guitar and he's taught himself piano and he mixes music. And so he'll actually create sort of the background soundtrack. And so I just kind of put that back there.
Oh,
But yeah, so we'll see where that goes someday. But it's just one of those things where you just the time that it takes. I've I just don't. I like to do. Well, see, I've got a family, so I
mm,
draw and I work professionally as an artist. Full time. But
yeah.
my own stuff, when you want to work on your own stuff, I have to do that when either incredibly early in the morning. I'll do a 4 o'clock Friday where I get up at 4 a.m. on a
Yeah.
Friday and the kids are sleeping, and I'll just work on my stuff from 4 to 7.
Ah, yeah.
Um, and then my kids will be up. We'll do breakfast, and then what I was doing, um, I haven't done it. And then in the afternoon, 4 p.m. on a Friday, then I'll go out of the house for an hour or two to a coffee shop and just write or illustrate.
Uh,
Um, and then in between the time at work, that's when I'm creating for clients.
yeah.
And so those have been sort of my YouTube videos and social media. It's like I know I need to do more of it, and I do post some things. I try to do something weekly, but man, I'm just making stuff. That's sort of
Yeah.
like the shoemaker has no shoes.
Yeah.
So for you now, I know you said you have a job where you're doing essential, you have an essential worker position, but
Mm.
then in terms of your artwork, so when do you create?
So I'm mainly creating at night.
Hmm.
Um, After my daughter's asleep. That's about 7:30 around about.
Yep.
And then from there to usually chillax for a little bit, and then start painting and do all this stuff.
Mm.
I do some on the weekend, but that is a give and take. Some of it's some
Right.
weekends I do it quite a few hours. Other weekends I don't do many hours. It all depends um,
Right.
on
Right.
what's happening, what we go and do, and all that stuff. So that's basically not I guess guaranteed time. The guaranteed
Right.
time is my night time, which is probably about 2 hours a night of illustrating. Really, I get um, amongst running this YouTube channel. I've got things to do with that as
Yeah.
well. um,
Yeah.
so
No,
yeah.
and that's cool because it's like, there's a part of me that before I was doing full-time creative work. I don't always illustrate every day. I have clients that need illustration work. Um, like today, I got to work on 4 projects. Working on an illustrated curriculum, working on a book. Actually doing a hand painted project and doing there was one other thing I was drawing today. I can't remember.
Yeah.
No, in addition, so a lot of times I find like I spent all this creative energy on my clients, and then at the end of the day, when I go to work on my own stuff, I feel like I'm going back to work in a sense. So it's like I feel, yeah, I think I'll just go read,
Yeah.
or something. So I have to really like flex it like a muscle. Sometimes when I want to be creative, sometimes I do wish I had a little bit more creative um, sort of mind rest to hit some of my own stuff because I've written about 12 or 14 books and they're all at different stages of development. Some are almost done. Some are, I'm working on a book dummy to be hopefully joint submitted with another author for publishing in November. But it's like the time is just, man, it goes fast. Um, and you wish you had the more of it. I wish I had done it more when I was younger. I guess I'm in my mid 40s now. I'm not an old man, but I had more time when I was younger.
Yeah. Uh, well, that's awesome. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, that's all the time at the moment we have. Um, Thanks for coming in.
yeah, man.
It's
Thank
great
you
to
for having
chat
me. I
with me.
appreciate it.
Any last kind of words?
My last words. Oh man, it's let's stay connected. Everyone keep illustrating, keep drawing, stay
Mm,
positive, reach your goals, set your goals. If anyone wants to check me out on any of my social media stuff, again, I'd love to connect with you guys there. But no, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
so, thanks everyone who did join me, whether it was on Twitch or on YouTube. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, um, and check out Jason McIntosh's work. Links are in the description. So keep drawing, everyone. Keep creating, and see you in the next video.